Oh! Hey guys, didn't see you there. It's Noah from Harmony Mushroom Co. This is our ultimate fruiting room tutorial guide. It's not going to necessarily show you how to build a fruiting room from scratch, but it's going to show you what we already have and hopefully clear up some questions about growing mushrooms in what is a proper fruiting condition, or what can you get away with. All the details coming at you live. Let's go. So first, when we look at the layout of this room, it's a big rectangle because it allows for the passage and circulation of fresh air and humidity, where if it was a square, there'd be more pockets where fresh air and humidity would dry out a little bit more. What's that doing in here? It's making TikToks, it's doing dances with the mushrooms. Now there's a few components that you need for a good fruiting room. You need nice bright lights. These are waterproof. I wired them up myself, as you can probably tell. You need an exhaust fan to get rid of all the spores and the excess CO2. It has to be the right amount of CFMs to keep this room at negative pressure, so it's pulling in cool air, cool fresh air from outside and from your air conditioning or whatever your setup is. Also, you're going to need a humidifier. Ours blew out because we use kind of these House of Hydro kind of foggers. They also get really dirty, so you have to clean it constantly. Ideally, in a perfect world, you'd have a Hart nozzle misting system or something that atomizes the water a little bit smaller and keeps things cleaner, where this is recirculating dirty air in the same room, but it's what we got, so we're going to make it work. That's probably what most of you are going to use because it's cheap and it's pretty easy to set up, where a Hart misting system is probably going to cost you $1,000 and it's going to use a little bit more space. Now, if you look at our fine craftsmanship here, this is our AC duct coming in from our ducted mini split that's upstairs. You don't necessarily need a ducted mini split, and you can just have it drain right down into the room. You don't necessarily need a ducted mini split, but this is just what we're using for our setup. It's been working pretty good. As long as you're processing and circulating the air somewhere else, that way you're not recirculating sporulated and wet air, because it's just going to dry out your fruiting room and it's going to ruin your air conditioner. So this allows us to get the air from outside and pipe it in. So a lot of you out there are going to build those PVC and wood racks, and while it's going to save you money in the short term because they're mad cheap and they're pretty easy to throw together, it's going to make you hate mushroom farming because you're going to be touching each individual block. Whenever we have 140 blocks on a rack and they're 10 pounds each, you're going to have to process those every time. And if it's not you doing it and you're paying someone, I'm not gonna pay for labor when I can just pay for one of these rolling racks and cut the time into a 1/10. So while these rolling racks are more expensive as a startup cost, they're gonna save you a lot of time and headache in the long run. And if you build racks, you're gonna wish that you had switched to these sooner, or maybe started with these. That's what I've noticed the trend is. Also, these are easier to clean because they're not fixed structures, so I can yoink these outside and I can hit them with a pressure washer and they're done. Whereas if they're on wooden racks, it's going to just accumulate mold and have all those hard to reach areas. This allows me to clear out all these racks and blast out this room with the pressure washer, so that way it's nice and clean. Right now we're about past due, you can tell because of the residue on the floor. Now let's take a look at these walls. I used steel roofing. There's all kinds of different steel roofing. I think these are just galvanized steel. I think it's about maybe 30 bucks a sheet for a 2x10 or something. What is this, 3x10 sheet of metal, and then you get, a bunch of those and you layer them up. Behind that is going to be spray-in open cell insulation. You can also use regular whatever insulation, as long as you put a plastic barrier up behind it to lock out the moisture, so that way you don't get mold behind the wall. That'll do pretty good. As long as it's insulated, you don't even need the metal. It just, for me, makes it easier to clean, where I can just hit it with the pressure washer and I don't have to scrub anything. If you use just plastic sheeting over insulation, it's going to be a pain to clean, in my opinion. Maybe you know something I don't know. It's all good. Another thing about these metal walls is that you can't use bleach or hydrogen peroxide because it'll cause them to rust. But you can also spot mold, like down there in that corner. It's just now starting to come in. Maybe it's because of this drippy AC. I'll fix that in another video, don't worry. Now, if this room looks a little silly the way it's built, that's because it is. This used to be a fruiting room over here that was 10x10, an incubation room over here that was 10x10. I outgrew it, I had to knock out the wall and then make it to where it's one long fruiting room, but it works great, so we're not complaining. All right, good night, everybody. Now, what's most important is that you make it work with what you got. You're not gonna have the same resources that I have, you're not gonna be in the same exact area that I am, so things are gonna be different. Now, you're also gonna read online and see videos where people are doing things a lot of different ways. And they're all going to be okay. If it's worked for somebody else, it's probably fine. A lot of people get too caught up in like reading what other people have done, and then they get confused. They're like, well, which one? This is conflicting information. Honestly, you just have to try it out, different methods. It's probably going to work completely different from you. There are things in here that I read online that were impossible or that are like the worst way to do it, but it works just fine. And it's like, you know, we're making it happen. So just don't be afraid to try some stuff, fail forward, fail fast, and get it over with. And also, once you've learned, teach others, and that's going to be the best thing you can do. So I hope this video has been super helpful for you. Yeah, see you next time.